Hello, and welcome to the first taster class of EUSDS's Autumn 2020 season. The class is taking place online because of COVID restrictions, but we can still cover a lot of dancing. My name's Jamie Davis, and I'm one of the pair of teachers who normally teaches weekly on Monday nights, the other being Katie Brooks, my teaching partner. I was a co-founder of EUSDS way back in 1997 and have been teaching since then, and Katie's been teaching with me since the turn of the century. Before we get on to the class that we're going to actually teach, I just want to show you something using archive footage about what EUSDS does, so that you know what you're in for when you decide to join us. Most of all, we do social dance. Social dance is where people go out for an evening or maybe a tea dance and they just dance with everybody there. Maybe showing off just as a couple, maybe just dancing with your partner as everybody else is dancing. One of the things you can look for in all of these pictures are the smiles on people's faces. Swing dance is just fun. Here's another way of dancing, on your own but together in something called a stroll. Some of the strolls are very, very sensible. With the skills that you learn at EUSDS, you can go far outside the university. You can, for example, take part in the cafe culture of jazz cafes where music is played and you just dance as a very pleasant way of spending a Sunday afternoon. Or you can learn the dance crazes of people 70 years ago. Here, Katie, my teaching partner, is teaching a stroll called The Madison. If you know the film Hairspray, you've seen The Madison. You can also take your skills to international dancing events. This is an event in London, and you can hear countries being called out from which all of the people have come. The only common language you need is the language of dance. Here you are seeing part of our interest in very old dances. This is a little performance group from the Society who were demonstrating the Charleston in a university dance event, one that takes place annually. And we also have an interest in some of the less common dances of the swing age. For example, this dance, Laminu, from 1940s California, is something you can learn at EUSDS, but in very few other places in the world. And if you have a taste for performance, then you can join this wonderful group and entertain audiences and have great fun doing so. Having seen all of this, I know it may be that if you haven't danced before, you may be worried seeing the skills you've just seen that you may not be able to do these. Actually, if you can move, you can dance. We've taught many people over the years and we're completely confident to say anybody who can walk, anybody who can move at all can learn to dance. You don't have to be an athlete. You can dance if you're big. You can dance if you're small. This second archive film is from a little comedy short about Jitterbug. You can dance if you're young. These are two children dancing the lindy hop. And you can dance if you're not so young. The lady dancing here on stage is celebrating her 88th birthday on the day that you're seeing her dance. I don't know how many of you know 88-year-old people who can do this, but it's quite striking that people who make dance part of their lives are often amazingly fit, physically and mentally, well into old age. You can dance on your own. This is solo jazz dance. We'll be doing quite a lot of that this semester for obvious reasons. And you can dance as a partnership. Here you're seeing a partnership between a man and a woman, Marcus and Bärbel, who have often come to teach in Edinburgh. And same-gender partnerships are also very common within dance. And here we're seeing two men dancing together. And here, two women dancing together. People just dance with whom they want to. It has no particular connection with any other parts of their lives. You can also have groups larger than two. In this sequence, you're going to see three people, in this case cooperating to share, but sometimes three are dancing at the same time. The lady you're seeing dancing here is exactly the same person you saw dancing on her 88th birthday. Obviously, this film was taken some time before. She's called Jean Villars and is one of the finest dancers of swing dance of all time. I'm actually going to finish this little sequence by using the words of Jean Villars, who was being interviewed on her 93rd birthday when she was still dancing.
Remember, at 93, I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of dancing. You look out there and you see these faces. Bright, shiny, lovely faces, so happy, just dancing their hearts out. It's an experience that everyone should have sometime in their life.
None of us could have put it better. That's the kind of experience we want to give you. I hope that's whetted your appetite. For this taster class, we're going to cover the basic elements of a 1920s dance which actually belongs slightly before the swing era, but swing dancers often do it anyway. It's an ancestor dance. And this is called 1920s Charleston. Before I actually start teaching you, I'm just going to show you a clip from an old movie-tone newsreel to show you somebody dancing Charleston in the street in the 1920s. What you just saw is based on a very simple footwork pattern. I'll just step back away from the camera to show you. The footwork pattern itself looks like this. It's just a series of steps and taps, and that's what I'm going to teach you to do in a moment. In the demonstration I just gave you, I was wearing shoes, which is of course the normal way of dancing. But I realise that a lot of you will be doing this class in student accommodation. There'll be people next to you, there may well be people below you, and they're not going to thank you for hopping about in hard shoes on a hard surface or even on a carpeted surface. So there's nothing in this class that can't be done barefoot, and I suggest that that's exactly what we do, and I shall actually teach some of this exactly the same way in a kind of solidarity with you, and so that you know that I'm not teaching anything that isn't comfortable to do that way. I said in the introduction that if you can walk, you can dance. And Charleston is essentially walking with attitude. The first part of it is just to step forward and then to step forward again. So we're going to be stepping forward with the left foot. So have your weight, start off with your weight on the right, and step forward with the left foot. And then with the right foot, you're just going to tap, but you're not transferring weight, this is free. Then you're going to step backwards on the right foot, committing your weight, and then you're going to tap backwards on the left foot. So while I'm still facing you, I'm going to dance this in mirror reverse, but you're going to start with all of your weight on your right foot, and you're going to step forward with your left foot, then tap your right foot in front of it, step backwards on your right foot, tap your left. So it's going to be forward, tap, back, tap, forward, tap, back, tap. I'm now going to turn round and I'm going to dance on the feet that you are because it's easier to follow somebody from the back. So it's going to be forward, tap, back, tap, forward, tap, back, tap, forward, tap, back, tap, like that. Right, we're going to dance that basic step together to music, and I'm going to turn my back on you again because it's easier to follow. We'll let the first verse go to get a feeling of the rhythm.
Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, I don't mean maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby now.
1, 3, 5, 7. Step.
Yes, ma'am, we decided. No, ma'am, we're not gonna hide it. Yes, ma'am, you're invited now. By the way, when we reach the preacher, I'll say with feeling. Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, I don't
Just let
mean
your arms
baby.
swing
Yes,
naturally.
sir, that's my baby now.
So I said a moment ago, let your arms swing naturally. Sometimes people overthink when they're dancing and the sense of natural is lost. If you think about the way that you walk normally, your arms and legs are in opposition. So if this foot's going forward, it's this arm that's going forward. And we've got this sort of completely natural balance in the way that we walk. I'll go backwards to show the same thing. So that arms and legs are going opposite ways. It would be really odd for me to walk like this, for example. That would look really peculiar. So with the same thing in the Charleston, as I'm stepping forward there, the arms in opposition, so you're just getting just like walking. If I just turn this Charleston into a walk, you see that the arms never had to break their rhythm. Okay, you saw in that black and white movie that the dancing wasn't being done straight. At the moment we're just being going straight forwards and straight backwards. But in the movie, what the lady was doing, she went forwards, but when she did the tap, instead of tapping forwards, she took her leg out and tapped it across herself like this. This is much easier if you have slightly bent knees. So we can practice that. We can take the step forward and then cross for the tap, then come back to take the step back, and then with the other foot, take it out and cross it behind for the tap. So we're still having our step, tap, step, tap, step, tap, step, tap. But now it all looks a lot bigger, and the more you bend your legs, the bigger it can look. The arms again should go fairly naturally, so what we'll be sort of seeing is a step, tap, so that your arms are balancing the tap. And a very typical Charleston style is to have your arms up here, palms forward as you're doing this. So I'm going to turn my back to you again so that you can follow me sort of literally rather than having to do mirror reversals. Let's do this together. So 5, 6, 7, 8, step, tap, step, tap, step, tap, step, tap, step, tap, step, tap, and so forth. Let's now do this to music.
Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, I don't mean maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby now.
Here we go. Step,
Yes, ma'am, we
step.
decided.
So this is the
No,
normal
ma'am,
version.
we're not gonna hide it. Yes, ma'am, you're invited now.
Maybe put the crosses in
By
now.
the way, when we reach the preacher,
Back to
I'll
normal.
say with feeling. Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, I don't mean maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby now.
Crosses. Okay, good. So hopefully you're doing all of this and you're already managing to dance the Charleston. But you may be finding it rather exhausting already, and you may, for example, want to take a little break, and there are moves that can break the Charleston. So I'll show you some, and I'm just going to put my jacket on because it's getting a little bit chilly. So one of these moves is the itch. So we were dancing away, it doesn't matter that you can't see my feet, you know what they're doing. We're dancing at the Charleston, and then suddenly we get an itch, and we have to scratch it. So the legs just kind of stop. if I step back further, you can see the kind of things that I'm doing. So you were Charlestoning, and then you stop, and you suddenly act as if you're getting a couple of, an insect bites or something. Say the Scottish midges. If you're new to Edinburgh, new to Scotland, and you haven't met a midge, believe me, you will. Then you'll know what I'm talking about. So you're suddenly going, ah, 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 and this sort of thing, and then back to dancing. So the whole effect is something like dancing, 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 as if nothing ever happened. Let me show you for a moment it's a movie clip from two wonderful dancers of first swing era, Leon James and Al Mims, and you're going to see exactly the sort of effect that I've shown you, but they're keeping it going for quite a lot longer. I'll show you the clip, then we'll come back here, and then we'll actually dance it together. So we're going to dance this together. Just dance for a while to the same old music, and then at a time that you want to, decide to have that in.
Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, don't be baby. Yes, sir, that's my baby now.
Ready?
Yes, ma'am, we decided. No, ma'am, we're not gonna hide it. Yes, ma'am, you're invited now. By the way, when we reach the preacher, I'll sing with feeling. Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir,
Just do this in your own
baby.
time.
Yes, sir, that's my baby now.
I should say two things about the music to which we've been dancing, by the way. It's by the Easy Rollers, and it's called Yes Sir, That's My Baby. It's a 1920s piece which is being played by a modern band, and there is a link to the YouTube clip of it where you can listen to the music in the credits section at the end of this whole sequence. I should also say that if you listen to it on YouTube, the audio quality will be much better. Right now, the system that I'm using for capturing audio for these taster classes, I'm starting to realise is a long way from optimal. I'll try to do something about it for our main classes, but the music will sound a lot nicer if you just go straight to the YouTube place, and you may want to find it in order to practice. Okay, at the moment we've been doing the Charleston in the way that you've already seen from that black and white movie, especially in some of the American universities of the 1920s, which is, of course this is an American dance, and people changed it a little bit. So there was a form which is sometimes nicknamed Collegiate Charleston. And here, instead of just having this sort of step, subtle tap, step, tap, or maybe with a bit of a cross, they did something much bigger. So they went step, swoop, step, tap, step, swoop, step, tap, step, swoop, step, tap, step, swoop, step, tap. So we're about to do this, but before we do this together, please look to your right and make sure that you do not have a shelf full of Dresden china, your flatmate's laptop, or anything else that you are likely to wallop when you sweep your leg around that way at something like waist height. Okay, so make sure that you've got space. If you don't have space, what dancers will often do is practice the idea of something small. So although I'm going to demonstrate it fairly large, although actually I'm constrained in space as well, what you can do is just go things like step, swoop, which will kind of get the idea in your head of what you're doing, even though you're constraining yourself. So, I'm going to turn my back to you, and I'm going to move slightly off centre here because I need space to my right. So I'm going to step forward, and I do need bent legs for this. You definitely need a bend in your knee. Kick my leg forward and high, and then swoop it round, and I'm going to hit this wall, so I have to cut this down a bit. So sweep it round, and then behind you. Back, forward, swoop, round. You can put a little bit of a backwards lean in if you want to make that swoop high. If you're not used to moving your legs apart like that, take it easy. I don't want you to strain anything. The idea is just to learn. I mean, even if you do this in a small way, you know, if we're doing our normal Charleston, this is how we started. Even a small version of the swoop, which really wasn't very high at all, is enough to give it a different look. Okay, so let's practice this together. 5, 6, 7. We'll start with one normal one just to get the rhythm going. 5, 6, 7, 8. Step, tap, step, tap, step, swoop, step, tap, step, swoop, step, tap, and normal. Good. Okay. Let us put that to music. I'm going to face you this time just because of the asymmetry of the space that I'm in. I really don't want to kick the wall hard.
Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir,
So we'll start with our
don't
basic.
baby. Yes, sir, that's my baby now.
Step,
Yes, ma'am, we
step,
decided.
step,
No, ma'am, we're not gonna hide it. Yes, ma'am, you're invited now.
and let's do little crossings.
By the way, when we reach the
Let's itch next time.
say we're feeling.
Normal.
Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, I don't think maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby
We'll
now.
do the swoops next. Normal. Crossing. Good. So there's one last little thing that I'll show you, and again, this comes from the classical 1920s Charleston, and again it's a break. It lets you take a rest. So you have been Charlestoning as before, and you can decide to take a rest like this. This is a great fun sort of illusion move. I'm going to move the screen so that you can see my legs rather better. It's an illusion move because it creates the illusion that your knees are passing each other, which is of course impossible. The way that it works, all that your knees are doing is your feet are sort of side by side, about hip width apart. You've got bent legs and your knees are simply going together, apart, together, apart, together, apart. That's all the knees are doing. You have your hands on your knees, apart. As your knees come together, keep your hands going so they swap knees. So now your hands are crossed. Come back, swap knees, they're uncrossed. So to crossed, to uncrossed, to crossed, to uncrossed, to crossed, to uncrossed. Some people sometimes let one knee capture both hands in this way, but the classical way is this. So if we just do this together, we're going to bend our knees. You must have bent knees for this, it won't work. Knees apart with the hands on them, together, crossing, open, apart. Crossing, apart. So legs are going open, close, open, close, open, close, and hands cross, uncross, cross, uncross. So you typically do that just for a little bit of the verse. The way that we were using the itch, it's the same kind of thing. You can be dancing step, tap, step, tap, step, tap, step, tap, step, tap, step, tap, D, 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 and then back to the normal Charleston. Sorry, I probably came back to that on the wrong foot because I'm sort of thinking about teaching more than dancing. But that's the pattern. So let's try that to music.
Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, I don't mean maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby now.
Straight Charleston.
Yes, ma'am, we decided. No, ma'am, we're not gonna hide it. Yes, ma'am, you're invited
And
now.
let's put the crosses in.
By the way,
Go back to
when we
normal.
reach the
Hands on
picture,
knees.
I'll say we're feeling.
normal?
Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, I don't think maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby now.
Okay, well that's about it for learning new moves in this class. The whole point of a taster isn't to teach you everything you need to know about a dance. The main point about a taster really is to convince you you can dance. And I'm sure you've been following along with this, and I'm sure you've already discovered you can dance. One of the nice things about having something which is online and you can listen to again is that you can always revisit these things if there's something you didn't quite get. And of course you can go to the music that I've recommended in the credits at the very end to play the music again in much higher fidelity and to practice on your own. The next taster will also be in 20's Charleston. It won't be exactly the same. There'll obviously be some overlap because the basic of how a Charleston works will be the same, but then I'll take it in slightly different directions. So if you want to study both tasters, then you'll end up with almost twice as much Charleston. Another thing that I want to say is that what I've been teaching you is solo Charleston, and that was a really common way of dancing it, people dancing it on their own. It's a very, very common way of doing it. But Charleston can also be danced together, where people are doing exactly the same sort of steps out of phase so that they don't kick each other. And I'm going to go from talking to you now, I'm going to put on a bit of a movie of the Easy Rollers who are performing the song to which we've been dancing. And you can see in the movie, they're performing, and there are dancers much like ourselves, not professional dancers in some fancy company, but exactly like people from EUSDS going out to dance. Many of us have actually danced with these people. And they're just having fun, and the camera's capturing that. And you can see lots of solo Charleston, some things you'll recognise you've already done, some things you won't yet recognise. And you'll also see at least one couple who are dancing as a partnership, showing the other paired kind of Charleston. So I hope you enjoy looking at this. I will stop talking now, and I hope to see you again in the next taster class. Goodbye for now.